Welcome back to the sixth and final episode of the Cybersecurity webinar series. And what a journey it has been. We've delved into the pivotal realms of cybersecurity, from its overreaching importance in today's digital landscape to the intricacies within regulated industries, the imperative nature of penetration tests, the power of staff training, and the evolving role of AI in shaping cybersecurity. Throughout this series, we've understood the non-negotiable nature of cybersecurity, understanding that its significance might contend with various challenges and priorities in the business world. For many business owners, allocating budgets and resources to cybersecurity might not always be top of the list. Recognizing this, the EU has established grant schemes to assist business owners, and that's precisely what we're here to unravel in today's discussion. Welcome back, David. Today with us we have Andrea Camilleri from Servizzi Ewropej of Malta.
Morning.
Good morning. Andrea, I would like you to give us an overview of Servizzi Ewropej of Malta and your mission in informing individuals and organizations about the latest EU funding opportunities.
So, Servizzi Ewropej of Malta is a government agency. In previous times, we were known as the Malta EU Steering and Action Committee. But we've since that time we've been focusing primarily on EU funding when it comes to European affairs. We focus primarily on first promoting EU funding opportunities and also promoting of EU funding in general. So not just the opportunities that are out there for people to apply, but also successful projects that have been implemented in Malta and goes on to show the impact of these projects the impact that these projects have had on the citizens of Malta. And in that way, people have a better understanding of how EU funding and how the EU is impacting their daily lives. In addition to our focus on promoting EU funding, we also provide assistance in the application process and also in providing more knowledge on specific funding opportunities and specific funding programs and how individuals can benefit from these funding opportunities. We do this by doing a number of meetings with prospective applicants. So once they show that they have an interest on anything EU funding related or they have queries on certain funding opportunities, we set meetings with them and we can guide them on how that funding program works, how that application form needs to be filled in. And in that way, they get a better understanding, not just of the funding program and the funding call, but also on how to develop a good project and the application form. In addition to that, we also guide them, provide guidance on the implementation process. So if they have questions on the implementation once they've been awarded funding, we can also provide some form of guidance in that way where we can answer questions that they might have if they get stuck on certain aspects of the implementation.
So you provide consultancy in a way to these business organizations?
No, to a certain degree, but it's not consultancy because we do not go into that area. That's the private sector. But we provide guidance on the application process to, as much as possible, to make it to reach those persons that would not be able to fill in the application form themselves. And we provide them a bit more in-depth knowledge on how to fill in the application forms themselves. We also, in addition to that, we also provide training. So we provide training on how they can fill in the application form. So instead of just guiding them through individually, we gather a number of different groups of people that would have interest in learning on how to fill an application form, and we provide a short course on how to fill in the application form and then also potentially implement a project. The training focuses on general things that we see that could a prospective applicant could easily benefit from. Our services are completely free of charge since we are a government entity, and we are open to all different prospective applicants. So we do not just focus on one type of funding program, but we focus on different types of funding programs.
So Andrea, today we're discussing cybersecurity, and very often we find that businesses don't allocate a particular budget until they face a big problem. So I know that there are EU-funded grant schemes supporting cybersecurity because the EU recognizes the importance of evading the risks. Can you please take us through the current schemes that there are?
Yes.
Specifically on cybersecurity.
Yes. So when it comes to the aspect of cybersecurity, two grants that prospective applicants can look at in Malta are the CyberAlt and the digitalization scheme, which is provided by Business Enhance. They both, one specifically focuses on cybersecurity and the other has elements of cybersecurity within it, but it does not entirely focus on the element of cybersecurity. The CyberAlt is the one that focuses primarily on enhancing the cybersecurity potential of businesses. It is based on a project that is being implemented by the National Coordination Center for Cybersecurity in Malta, which is also part of MITA. And in the past, they have been awarded a project under Digital Europe, which is one of the main programs that the European Commission has in anything in the digital sphere. And as part of that project, they have been awarded an amount of funding which they are allocating to businesses to strengthen their cybersecurity potential. This funding is being administered through a grant system, so different applicants can apply through an application form which is currently still open. It was open last year. A number of different businesses applied, and it has been reopened recently, and it has a number of different deadlines this year. The focus of the CyberAlt is entirely on enhancing the cybersecurity potential of these businesses and developing cybersecurity solutions. So the focus is that they develop cybersecurity solutions themselves. They can invest in their business on tackling different areas related to cybersecurity, and that is what makes them eligible. The focus here is that there are 5 specific areas which the CyberAlt focuses on. Amongst these, we have threat detection and response, vulnerability management solutions, end-to-end data protection. And of these 5 areas, the applicants have to tackle at least one of these areas. So whatever they're going to purchase through their project and whatever investment they're going to make has to be in one of these areas at the very least. If they tackle more of these areas, then the project becomes much stronger as a project, because their cybersecurity solution is tackling a number of different areas. Under the scheme, businesses can receive a maximum of 60,000 euros at a co-financing rate of 80%. So this is quite advantageous for businesses that have specific needs in the area of cybersecurity.
How can a business apply for this benefit and for these grants?
For the CyberAlt scheme, they can access, they go on the page for the CyberAlt scheme. There is a link to an online application form. And the application form, once they access it, it gives them a file with a number of attachments that they need to fill in and also attach with the application form. The application form, they need to start uploading different information on it, which the information that is requested varies. So first, the application form has questions that focus on details of the businesses that is applying, so their address, basic information that is required to understand the nature of the business. and also understand the structure. And then the application form goes into specific areas related to the investment that they will make. So they have questions asking them what is the equipment that they are going to purchase, how this investment is going to tackle specific needs that the business has, and also going into other areas, focus on the structure of the enterprises applying, how they will be implementing the project, the timeframes that they will set themselves to implement certain elements of the project, and then finally it goes into the budget section. So the budget section then goes into the different investments that they will make, different equipment or machinery or software that they will purchase, and they will structure the budget in that way. So once it's being evaluated, the evaluators understand what they're going to purchase through this investment.
Okay, so this 60,000 is given for a specific period, because we know that usually the cybersecurity products that are available require a monthly or yearly expenditure or subscription. So this 60,000 that you mentioned, is it to be used within a specific period, say a year, 2 years? And another question that comes up sometimes when we are giving customers presentations is that there are clients of a certain size who would not be able to apply for such a scheme because they are considered to be too large. So are these schemes for SMEs of a particular size? Would corporates be unable to apply? So can you take us through that as well? Because these are questions that come up, and I'm sure that are of the answers of which are of interest to our customers.
Yes. So when it comes to the last question, when it comes on the size of the enterprise, for the CyberAlt scheme, the focus is primarily on SMEs, so small and medium-sized enterprises. So not large enterprises. There's also the eligibility for micro-sized enterprises. And that is the cap that there is for in terms of the eligibility of the structure of the enterprise that can apply. Then on the issue of duration, usually when it comes to subscriptions, this is capped at around the end date of the project, or 2 years, 2 years subscription. So there's always a limit because these grants are still based on project based. So there's always a start and an end date. When it comes to investment in equipment under the CyberAlt, the equipment needs to be based on depreciation. So they look at the depreciation value of the equipment over the period of the project, and you receive that amount of funding of the depreciation. The other scheme, the digitalization scheme, which does allow investments in the cybersecurity area, does not, the subscriptions are for 2 years, that is set, but then equipment is not based on depreciation. It is a grant of 50% co-financing or 60% co-financing for businesses in GoTo, and the equipment that is purchased is not based on depreciation. So if you do purchase some form of equipment, it is not just depreciation value that is funded, but the 50% of what you are applying for.
And how would the business receive the proceeds of the grant, from the grant?
So the first process is that they apply for funding. If they are awarded with the funding, they sign a grant agreement. Once they sign a grant agreement, then they can order the equipment that they would have stipulated in the application form that they will be purchasing. Once the equipment is received, is delivered, they make a payment to the provider, and once that payment has been finalized and the project, let's say, is completed, then they make a payment claim, and based on the payment claim, then they will receive a reimbursement in grants, in the grant to what they would have purchased.
So what frequent mistakes would an applicant make in such an application process? Because it seems to be quite laborious from what I can hear.
So yes, so there are two elements within the application process. One is the application process and the writing of the application form itself, which is has been streamlined. Obviously, it is, some people might say that it might be a bit difficult at first, but the questions are very much structured in a way that a lot of people can understand. To assist in the answering of these questions, there are also notes to applicants, which act as a guidebook to how to answer specific certain questions, and they provide a bit more information on how to tackle each question. So whereas a question would be one sentence of what is required, the guidebook for that question will provide a paragraph of more in-depth information on what exactly is required and how you can structure your answer. So that does help when it comes to answering the questions. The other element of the application process are the attachments. There are a number of different attachments which one needs to gather. When it comes to submission of the application form, we tend to see, for the most part, that when there is a challenge in the application process, the challenge lies mainly in the attachments primarily, because sometimes the attachments, they might prospective applicants have certain queries on certain documents that they require. For example, there's a requirement to provide an ACE code. The ACE code is a code that is given to each enterprise in the depending on the sector that they are operating in. That is, at first, organizations might have a question on how do I get this ACE code, what exactly it represents, but it is also explained in the notes to applicants from where you can get this ACE code. There are documents such as the de minimis form, the ultimately beneficiary owner form, which is just a document that each organization can fill in to properly understand, where the evaluator can properly understand who is the owner of that enterprise and understanding the structure that that particular enterprise would have. And then the other forms which are provided with the application pack. So as I already mentioned, once you go on the online form, you'll have both the online form, but you can also download the templates for any attachments that you would require to provide that require some form of template and structure to them. In addition to that, you might also have attachments such as providing the quotations. For the CyberAlt scheme, you need to provide 3 quotations. For the digitalization scheme, also you will need to provide 3 quotations. And in this case, they will need to start working on gathering 3 quotations for each item that they will need to purchase. And these quotations will need to be comparable. Sometimes that's a bit of a challenge for certain organizations.
So what determines kind of it's a two-part question. First of all, is there any limitations on who the vendors can be? And number 2 is, you correctly, and I can imagine why, you said you need 3 quotes, obviously, but what is the point that weights your decision the most? In the sense, is it price or something else that says, you know, like, listen, this is denied or allowed because of the quote or the vendor?
Yes. Okay. So on the last point, on the quotations, you need to have, as I mentioned, 3 comparable quotations. So when it comes to any of the equipment or software, they need to be comparable. More often than not, you will need to provide some kind of documentation, and in addition to the market research, the quotations, which shows your minimum criteria. This is particularly the case in the digitalization scheme. So you need to show what minimum criteria you require for that particular equipment. So in the case of you're going to purchase a laptop, your minimum requirements for a laptop that would help you in your work would be how much RAM you need the laptop at a minimum to have. And you can have a range, a minimum and a maximum. you need to make sure that at least the 3 quotations fulfill that minimum criteria. If it has other things to it, other specifications, it is not necessarily a key aspect that they look into, but at least that each of the quotations that you provide have met your minimum criteria, and that is how it is a bit an evaluator can properly judge if those quotations are comparable. The budget is then based on your cheapest quotation. So on the cheapest quotation in the budget form, you need to provide the cheapest, the price of the cheapest quotation that you received. You will be given funding on the cheapest quotation, but you can select one of the other 3 if you prefer that particular equipment or particular software or service that particular provider will be providing. So they do not limit you in the selection of who you wish to work with when it comes to the implementation phase, as long as it's one of the 3 that you provide in the quotations. But the budget, that the amount of money that they provide, that they will give you, is based on the cheapest, because they still have to follow procurement regulations that are set for Malta. So in that case, it will always be based on the cheapest, and then the difference will be covered by the respective applicant and business. Then when it comes to the selection, the providers, as long as you can get quotations which are comparable, there's no limitation to the provider that you can get, that you can get quotations from, as long as the provider of the quotation is not linked to the other provider of another quotation. So it's not the same business, or there's no link between the 2 businesses. And as long as they are 3 separate quotations from 3 different suppliers, then you can move ahead with those 3 quotations.
Okay, excellent. And last question from my end. It's quite an involved process, rightly so. You can't just give away money for free, basically. But if you are allowed, can you share any success stories that you had recently or over the past years locally on the scene where businesses went through this admittedly laborious process, but then reaped the rewards because of this extra funding?
For the CyberAlt, a lot of the projects are still at the start of their implementation, because a lot of the application form opened around the midpoint last year, and then obviously there's a process which goes into the evaluation. So a lot of the projects under the CyberAlt are just starting to kick off right now. So it's specific enterprises that have benefited, and it's still at the early stages. And the digitalization scheme, there haven't been too many that made investments in the cybersecurity aspect. A lot of the investments that we've seen enterprises trying to make, since the digitalization scheme is open for anything in this aspect of digitalization, which can be purchase of laptops or iPads or whatever a business needs to digitize its business. There have been a number. We've seen a number of different restaurants that apply to have a point of sale system, which they wouldn't have had in the past, or even hotels having some kind of accounting database. So it's quite a wide range of businesses that we've seen apply. When it comes to CyberAlt, we're just starting to see projects start to kick off right now, and potentially the results hopefully will start to be seen in the next coming months to a year. So in that case, it's still a bit of an early stage, but we hope to see more businesses apply to start benefiting from this funding, because the CyberAlt is still open, and it has now a number of deadlines which are fast approaching. So we're trying to encourage as many people to apply as possible to make use of these funds because if they're not entirely utilized, then they will be lost. So that is something that we hope that there's more interest on that aspect.
Okay, thank you very, very much.
Thank you. So now that we know what's available, we can actually tell businesses ourselves when we are doing our sales pitch as well. Maybe it's going to be a lengthier process, because when clients are going through the process of purchasing cybersecurity, it's usually not a short process. So this gets lengthier because of the procurement procedure. Because I mean, if I look back at the clients we are closing now, we started working on them last summer, because obviously they go through a process themselves within the company, especially when there's a board that needs to take a decision, a board of directors. So now we can see that the process will get, and there's a reason why as well, that the process is lengthy, because of the need for 3 quotations. So this is not considered to be a specialized service, because in terms of the number of quotations that you would consider, because from my end, if I have my own business, cybersecurity is such a particular kind of service that I would be buying, that I would want to have my provider of choice. Because I mean, here we are looking into the business data per se. So it's important that there's the trust element, that the business is comfortable with the provider that is being chosen for cybersecurity. So the funds are great, the grants are great, but obviously this is not a small decision to take. We thank you for your participation, Andrea. This has been a very interesting session even for me, because I can obviously now refer more businesses to you as an organization. We do push clients to tap on the grant schemes ourselves when we're selling, because obviously the amounts to be covered are not small. So we thank your organization for all the service that you're giving businesses, even in terms of other schemes that you provide. And thank you for participating with us in this cybersecurity webinar. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So we've come to an end of our 6-episode webinar series. It's been a very interesting journey. I hope that we've reached our goal to empower businesses with the necessary information to make good business decisions in terms of cybersecurity. At Go, we have a dedicated team of account managers who can help. We also have our solutions engineers who can help with the necessary presentations to whoever requests or is interested in the service. Please feel free to get in touch with us through our website, www.go.com.mt/business, or else just reach out to your account manager at Go, or even to me through LinkedIn or to David.
Same here. I'd like to thank everyone who's been with us, and I'd like to remind them that CyberSift is a local company, a Maltese company, so we're very approachable. And you can learn more about our products on our website, cybersift.com, or obviously through Go. And once again, I'd like to thank Go as well as the audience for participating in this webinar along with us.
We also would like to thank Hubert McCullough from Go, who was with us during one of our episodes. Also, Professor Matthew Montebello from the University of Malta. And today we had Andrea Camilleri from Servizzi Ewropej, Malta. Thank you.